Hey there, I'm Polygon the Porygon, also known as Polypory, and welcome to a brand new Pokemon video. Today we will be discussing what a new Pokemon Ranger game could look like on the Switch 2. For those unfamiliar with Pokemon Ranger, it was one of Pokemon's many spin-offs that became a short series on the DS, having 3 entries. The original Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almia, and Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. I myself have only played the first of these 3, and that was when I was like 10 years old, so a really long time ago. Pokemon Ranger was very different from the mainline games because you couldn't catch Pokemon permanently, having to release them back into the wild after using them, and there were no trainer battles. This is because a Ranger is different from a trainer. It is their job to protect wild Pokemon, usually from people who wish to abuse the Pokemon for their own selfish reasons. Besides their own games, Pokemon Rangers have appeared as trainer classes in the mainline series from generations 3 to 6, so Hoenn all the way up to Kalos. Pokemon Ranger had also got its own movie, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, and Rangers have also appeared in the TV series multiple times as well. So for a time, they really had promoted the series, but it slowly started to fade away. One thing that I find really interesting though is that the Ranger class is in X and Y, but there are no Ranger games on the 3DS. Perhaps they had plans to make another game, but it got scrapped? Who knows? But now you might be wondering, why bring up Pokemon Ranger all of a sudden? Did I love the game so much that I wanted the series to return? No, in fact, I hated the original Pokemon Ranger game with a passion. I hated that you couldn't keep the Pokemon you caught. Catching Pokemon with the style became repetitive. I don't even remember what the story was, and the game was actually really hard. Though I was 10 at the time, so it could just be that. I did complete the game though. And I have an older brother who knows that I hate this game, and he's the type of sibling who loves to tease and mention things that you hate and say it's actually your favorite thing. So he would be like, Pokemon Ranger is your favorite game, right? They should make a game on the Switch. But to that, I just stopped and thought for a moment. It could work. And I bet they could make a way better game now than what they had on the DS. After that, I immediately started brainstorming ideas on how to make an awesome Pokemon Ranger game for the Switch. For a long time though, I had left the idea completely unfinished. Throughout the Switch's lifespan, we saw the return of some other old Pokemon spin-offs, like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and even Pokemon Snap, which only had one game, and that was originally on the N64. So if something like Pokemon Snap could revive after all these years, maybe something like Pokemon Ranger could as well. But the Switch is now at the end of its time, so let's switch the concept of a new Ranger game to being on the Switch too! And the best part is I don't need to change anything because they have the same features! Yay! So let's dive right into this, shall we? The title of this new Ranger game will be Pokemon Ranger Distant Future. And we'll first start off with the feature that the game relies most heavily on, the Capture Styler. To capture a wild Pokemon, you'll have to point the right Joy-Con at the Pokemon on the screen and click A. From there, you'll be brought into the capture sequence. In this screen, 2 types of prompts will appear. The first is the spinning prompt, which you will spin/twirl the right Joy-Con as fast as you can. After the spinning prompt comes the button prompts. These are timed prompts that show as a circle becoming smaller around the button that the prompt requests. In this case, the example shows the B button, but it could be the A, Y, or X buttons as well. At the top of the screen, there will be a stamina bar that indicates how close you are to capturing the Pokemon. You are represented by the green part of the bar and the Pokemon by the red part. If you fail a button prompt phase, the stamina bar on your side decreases and the Pokemon's increases. The amount that this changes by depends on how well you did in the spin prompt. You'll be able to keep trying to catch the Pokemon as long as you still have some stamina. But if you run out of stamina, the capture sequence will end and the wild Pokemon will flee. The capture sequence is divided into phases. One phase will consist of 1 spin prompt and 1 set of button prompts. There will be multiple phases until you capture the Pokemon. The rarer and stronger the Pokemon, the more phases there will be. Each subsequent phase will be more difficult than the last as the Pokemon becomes more desperate to flee. Things that could make the button phases more difficult are switching between different buttons, making the prompts faster, alternating the speed of the prompts, which will get you off your rhythm, or adding a higher number of button prompts. I feel like these changes to the capture system will make capturing Pokemon much more interesting and engaging than in the previous games, as there will be a lot more variety and attention to detail needed in these sequences. Continuing on with game mechanics, the next unique feature that we'll explore is the ability to play as the Pokémon. After you've captured a Pokémon, you'll be able to switch to their perspective. This allows you to explore the world as a Pokémon. As a Pokémon, you can now travel to hard-to-reach places like climbing or flying to the top of a cliff, dive deep underwater, or crawl through tight spaces that are too small for humans to access. You can have up to 5 Pokémon follow you, excluding your partner, which makes 6. If you capture any other Pokémon, one must be released. Pokémon captured by the player will have a marking above their head to differentiate them from wild and trainer Pokémon. A green marking indicates that it was captured by the player, no marking means that it's a wild Pokémon, and a red marking indicates that it's a trainer's Pokémon. On your journey, you will encounter individuals who abuse Pokémon for their own selfish reasons, and thus you will have to command Pokémon to battle. The game will feature a real-time combat system in which all your Pokémon join in to fight. You can select which Pokémon you would like to take control of by going through your options with the right and left directional buttons. Outside of battle, you can switch to your captured Pokémon by going up to them and pressing A. When using a Pokémon in battle, the A, B, X, Y buttons will each correspond to a move. Many moves have certain effects outside of battle too, like Flash and Rock Smash. Sometimes your Pokémon may notice something. When you notice an exclamation mark above the Pokémon's head, make sure to go up to them and press A. They may be able to lead you to some lost items or help find specific people or Pokémon. One thing to keep in mind is that you can only use the Pokémon that you captured in the area that you found it in. If you wish to go to another area, you must release the Pokémon that you currently have with you. They will be automatically released when you leave the area, but a warning will pop up beforehand as a reminder. The reasoning behind this is because you need to release the Pokémon in a suitable environment. For example, you can't just release an ice type in the desert. The wild Pokémon have homes too. The only exception to this rule is with the Pokémon found in the polluted lands, in which case you go to the Ranger Institute so that they can be distributed to our nature reserve. That brings us to the story so that I can describe more to you about these polluted lands, the Ranger Institute, and the nature reserves. Experience a story like never before. Pokémon Ranger Distant Future is a unique game that takes place, as the title suggests, in the distant future. However, this world has been on a horrible, corrupt path for some time. The world is badly polluted to the point where many species of Pokémon have went extinct. The majority of Pokémon that have survived are steel and poison Pokémon who can survive in this toxic environment. But how did the world get to this point? The former multi-billion-dollar corporation Eternitech had taken control of much of the world through its limitless wealth, buying land, resources, and even public opinion. They kept their many environmental malpractices a closely guarded secret, until it became too noticeable to hide anymore. People and Pokémon fought together against the evil Eternitech, until they eventually were disbanded. Now there are many nature reserves that try to preserve the last few surviving species of Pokémon. As a Pokémon Ranger, it is your job to help maintain such nature reserves, protecting these Pokémon and guiding any wild Pokémon that would be unable to live in the harsh outside world to a reserve. Your hub of operation is the Ranger Institute in Titania City. As a new recruit, you will pick a partner to help you on your missions. After working as a ranger for a while, you one day learn a dark secret about the Ranger Institute's president, Myra. She's an ex-member of Eternitech and has been funneling funds to the remaining members of Eternitech so that they can come back stronger than ever and take over the world that they claim is rightfully theirs. You manage to escape the Ranger Institute, but now classified as a dangerous rogue ranger with a bounty on your head, it is impossible to stay in any of the cities. Knowing what you do now, you decide that you have to take matters into your own hands to stop the resurrection of Eternitech. When you find the Eternitech members' base, you discover that the Ranger Institute also provided them with Pokémon to experiment on. These experiments led to the first cyborg Pokémon, known in Scarlet and Violet as future Paradox Pokémon. The cyborg Pokémon that they just completed is a weaponized version of the legendary Pokémon Terrakion. As you can see, this story combines concepts from the mainline games like Scarlet and Violet. Many fans had various questions and speculations on the future Paradox Pokémon, wondering what sort of future that they would be from, so I decided to explore that in this video for a Pokémon Ranger game. Transitioning over to the starters, as mentioned before, the majority of Pokémon species that are left are poison and steel types, so the stars are of this type. It's also a good thing that they are one of these types so they can travel safely with you throughout the polluted lands. The starters are Tinkatink, Pawniard, and Beldum. You'll notice that they are all steel types though, and not poison types. And that is because Titania City, where the Ranger Institute resides, is known for its abundance of Steel-type Pokémon. Some additional information on partner Pokémon is that they will always remain with you throughout the game and are the only Pokémon that will gain experience and level up. Your partner will gain experience after successfully capturing a Pokémon with the Styler, and each partner Pokémon can evolve twice and will do so at specific parts of the story. So their evolution is not based on level up or any other requirements like in the other Pokémon games. Another thing about this game is that it will be open world. As a ranger, you'll be able to go anywhere in the name of saving Pokémon. This includes any of the reserves, cities, and the outside polluted lands. You'll be able to quickly fast travel to any location that you have registered before using the teleportation pads. To access the quick travel menu, press Y. The list will then pop up with all the locations you have registered. Within each location are sub-areas that you can see once you've selected the location. If a sub-area is labeled with 3 question marks, that means that there is still a teleportation pad that you have not found in that location. So try to explore a lot to make travel easier. Since you can go anywhere as a ranger, that means you do not need to go to areas in a specific order. The Pokémon found in each area will vary in level though, so some areas may have higher level Pokémon. This just means that trying to capture these Pokémon will be a little bit more difficult. It is recommended that you go to easier areas and areas that have quests that will progress the story first, so that you can then build up your skills. So why would you want to possibly go to these hard areas then? By exploring these areas, you can find useful items and teleporters that will make your life easier in the future. You can also complete certain non-story related quests there. And that's everything that I have so far on my new Pokémon Ranger game for the Switch 2. Thank you for making it this far into the video. If you want me to expand more on this game idea, make sure to like the video. If this video gets 100 likes, I'll make a part 2 that would include things like the game's cover art, explore the characters that would be in this game with their designs, create maps, display a more detailed layout of the controls, and I can even add suggestions from you, the viewers. So make sure to comment what you'd like to see in this Pokémon Ranger game.